Introductory calls can be an important screening process, but they also help us collect key information which can make life easier later on. In this video, we'll talk about some ways that you can prepare for your prospecting calls. We'll discuss what exactly you should collect during that call. And lastly, we'll talk about how to link any prospect information to your existing CRM. So if you have the client kickoff stack, you'll see this home dashboard. You can click into the introductory calls page here, but you can also view them directly in the calendar. Let's go to the introductory calls page though, and we can view one of these existing ones which has been set up for us. And this is just using a pre-existing template. So if you want to use that template for a new prospect, let's say we create a new one, which can be number 4, we can hit this intro call template. And as we do, it's going to pre-fill with the preparation info and what we're going to fill out during the call. So the first step, let's talk about some of the things that we can do to prepare for your prospecting calls. Naturally, this will change with every business. Everyone can have their own approach to this, what they want to do in order to feel comfortable getting on the call. Some people just jump right on. Others need a full hour or so researching and getting ready. Whatever your style, these are some of the useful things that you may consider reviewing. First of all, you might want to check out their website. You may want to take a think about any key pain points that you notice or anticipate for this particular prospect. You can review any key competitors that may be out there if you're familiar enough with their business. And you probably want to go ahead and scope out a rough project outline, whether you do this by hand or in a Notion workspace or just kind of mentally. It typically helps to have a rough idea at the very least of the type of project you would like to walk away with if everything goes well in your prospecting call. So some things to consider, very, very basic. The timeline that you typically work within, a budget range. This will help if they ask you on the spot for what the budget is. It helps to have a rough range in mind before jumping on the call. And any key outcomes that you are confident you can deliver, these will obviously be tailored to the discussion that you have, but it helps to prepare with just a rough idea of what you would like this project to perhaps look like. So we've done our preparation and now it's time to get on the call with our prospect. These are just some areas which may be useful to keep in mind while you're on the call. And the reason we've included these particular pieces of information is because they will make life a lot easier later on if we do need to follow up and fill out a follow-up proposal with some details. So the key areas that we are going to want to collect from our prospective client, we'll give them a chance to give any background information about their company, team, history, anything that's going to be useful just to get some context. And then we're going to focus on 3 why questions. And these 3 whys are taken directly from Jonathan Stark's why conversation. I've linked a really useful conversation. Jonathan is an excellent resource on anything value-based pricing. So if you're interested in that, I'd highly recommend you to follow up on his work, on his website, and any conversations or podcasts you can find with him. But the basic idea is we're going to ask why this, which is to really understand and get the client to explain exactly why this is the project engagement they are going into and not something else which might address the same or similar problems. And during that question or the answer to that question, we're really trying to find out what's underneath what's their underlying motivation for this project. What are the key outcomes that they're trying to reach? During that phase of the call, we really can get a lot of key information. We're also going to ask why now, which is to better understand any relevant timelines or deadlines coming up. Is there a launch? What's the timing behind this change or this move? Should they have done it earlier? Why can't they do it later? This is going to help us understand some of the urgency tied to the project as well. And then finally, the the more difficult question to ask for many, but just it really is quite important, is to ask why me, which is to understand why the client is considering you at all. You're having this conversation with them, you've managed to get on a call, they obviously have expressed some interest in what you offer, and it can be really helpful to just directly ask, what is it exactly in your past experience, in your portfolio, in your lead-up conversations that was valuable or interesting to the client or to the prospect. And from there, you can actually lean into any strengths that they highlight, and in the best case scenario, they'll tell you exactly why they're interested in working with you, and you can really leverage that in your proposal. So we're going to try and gather information from these 3 whys, and then we're going to have a period where we try to get 3 confirmations. The main confirmations that we want to get are that we're all on the same page about the project outcomes that we're working towards. So if you pick up on anything which sounds like the key outcome this particular prospect is looking for, let's just repeat it back to them to make sure everyone's on the same page in terms of what we're working towards. We're going to ask the client to confirm how they expect to measure success on this project. We don't want them to be looking at different metrics than we are, in terms of if you're perhaps on a marketing project and they are expecting some revenue change and you're expecting to bring them traffic change. We just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page in terms of what we're looking at. And finally, we're going to give that estimated project budget range, just to make sure that it's a budget they're willing to consider before we go ahead and write a full proposal. And finally, to close out the call, you just want to leave the client with a clear idea of what's coming next. We'll follow up on any references or portfolio items, additional info if they've requested it, and we will let them know if we're going to follow up with a proposal, and if so, when we're going to send that across. And for those of you who may have come across our pre-built Notion CRM, we're just going to show a quick way to link that CRM to this prospect or any of your prospecting introductory calls if you're interested. And of course, if you have your own CRM set up in Notion, then you can follow these steps as well. So we're going to use this pre-built field, and we're just going to change it. You just need to do this from within your own Notion workspace, which is why it hasn't been pre-built. We're going to select the database CRM, and this is appearing in a few different databases. Let's just select this one for the purposes of the demo. Once we click into that, we can see if the prospect has already been added to our CRM, and if not, then we can add them directly from this view. Their name happens to be prospect name number 1. We can add them. They'll be linked here. If we go to the CRM, we'll see them linked to this particular introductory call, so we can reference any calls that we've had with them. You'll also notice this related proposals are linked to this contact, which we'll be covering in another video. So to recap, with this block, we can quickly prepare some information about our prospects before hopping on a call. While we're on the call, we have a few key areas and questions that we can ask and make sure that we collect the right information that we'll need. And finally, we talked about how to link these prospecting calls and any information gathered on those calls with a Notion CRM or any system that you happen to be